question is there any consideration given to the drinking water, drinking water aquifers before the gas companies are allowed to start drilling and doing their injecting and all their activities? The short answer is yes. I mean, the Oil and Gas Commission, that is their charge. I mean, and one of the ways that they try to mitigate contamination is using a process called casing, where they take when they drill a borehole, they take casing, which can be either steel casing, plastic casing, which is basically pipe, if you will, or concrete, and you basically put it in the hole down through the interval that you're trying to protect or you're trying not to let it out, and then you backfill it with concrete up there. And behind the theory is, and in reality it works most of the time unless there's some kind of structural failure within the casing or within the concrete job, that whatever goes on inside the pipe does not get out into the rock, the surrounding rock. Now, as anything mechanical, anything that man makes or does, there's always the potential for a failure or something to go wrong. And sometimes you can get a crack in the casing, a fracture in the casing, a bad concrete job that will allow the material to migrate and get into the unit, causing contamination and stuff. But again, the companies and the Oil and Gas Commission, the Oil and Gas Commission does the regulations. They say how much casing, how deep, how thick, what are they supposed to do, and then it's the company's responsibility to carry out that, of course, and do that. We're kind of in a unique situation, and this is one thing I've tried to talk to folks about. What happens in Pennsylvania, or the Marcellus play is what it's called, or the Caney play, shale play in Oklahoma, or the Barnett play in Texas, and the Fayetteville play here in Arkansas, and there are going to be numerous more of these shale gas plays in the future. You have to look at each area specifically to its geology. It's hard to paint a broad brush stroke for all plays. In other words, if you look at the geology of the Barnett play, it's different than the geology up here in Fayetteville. It's different, a little bit different in Oklahoma, and it's quite a bit different. Some of the areas where they're actually doing the fracking, they're producing the gas in Pennsylvania, is actually where their aquifers are that they're getting the water out of. Here in the Fayetteville area, it's a little different. Most of the drinking aquifers, what I talk about drinking aquifers, I'm talking about the shallow ground watering that produces for the households, and even several of the municipalities used to be on this kind of water. Most of it's less than 1,200 feet deep. Most of it is surface, near surface to about 1,200 feet deep is what they're producing, and they're using fracture porosity to produce it. It's not what we think of a lot of times, geologically speaking, as a quote-unquote true aquifer, like the Sparta sand or the Memphis sand, which is a big, thick unit of continuous and very homogeneous material that produces water over a broad area. In this area here, you can drill a well in one area, move over 200 feet and drill a well, and it'd be dry. And you'd have 10 gallons a minute here. I mean, that's why how many of you folks have heard the term witching? Witching water, where, my grandpa used to witch water. Well, yeah, I mean, if you hit the right fracture, you're going to get water. If you move over a little bit and you don't hit the right fracture pattern, you're going to get zero. And that's what happens a lot of time. So in this area, because I live there, I mean, this is my home. I live in Greenbrier. I actually live in the small community of Wooster up there. And I know that the community up there, up until they put in a pipeline from Greer's Ferry Lake to all these small municipalities, our water was well water from these fractures. And the deepest well that they produced was about 800 feet deep. And they'd always have trouble with it going dry in the summer because, it was so dependent on how much rain and how much was going on in the connectivity of the patterns and the fractures and stuff. So a lot of these communities now in that area, not all of them, are now on surface water through Greer's Ferry. But the ones that still are, and the households that are still on the shallow wells, I mean, there is always concern for things going wrong and contamination. But up in Pennsylvania, and I'm a little weak on their geology, it's just what I've understood and read, they have more regional aquifers that a lot more people are dependent on. So if you get contamination in a regional aquifer, you have a much bigger problem than you have if you have localized, fracture contamination from different things. So in a sense, yes, that they do take that in consideration. It's up to the regulatory agency to hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, and it is it's their charge to do it, to be good neighbors and do it. Does it always work? No, but at the same time, there is repercussions if they don't.